I need to go. Okay, we're back. Thompson or Mills? Yeah, who wants to go first?
I don't know. I'm on page 4, second to last paragraph. And this is after the dialogue. It says, these beliefs about pseudocapacity show up in interactive teaching in very concrete and observable ways. They influence the spirit, the fiber, the character, and commitment of the staff in the school to be persistent when the going gets tough with discouraged students or youngsters who are way behind. And they are evident in team meetings where they show up in dialogue and statements one can hear. It's particularly true, the belief that all the students have capacity to do rigorous material at high standards, even if they are currently way behind.
Okay, can we just read the first three things in quotations that support the beliefs? So those are the beliefs.
If some of the students aren't getting it, it is my responsibility to do something different for them. I have to get assessment information frequently, daily, to see where reteaching is necessary. And if I take the trouble to do this assessment and to design reteaching, the students who don't get it now probably will get it.
Boom, can I go? Mm-hmm. So as I was reading over this, I took some notes on here somewhere. The whiteboards and the calculators, because it's one thing to take the test, all of us to sit down and analyze it, and then to go back and show the student what they missed. Those whiteboards are magic, because right then you can see the mistakes. And once again, I just think, and I think that occurs, it comes into, I have to get assessment information frequently and daily. And the whiteboards and the navigator with the calculators does that, and it is so much more relevant if it happens then. If you can say, see that, and from there right then too, you can have them find their mistake. But it's 1,000 times more relevant if it's in the moment as opposed to going back a week later.
I think also, to piggyback on what she said, is that the whiteboards do magic, and when we get the calculators to do magic too. But I think it's more so of like this belief, because sometimes I feel like, sometimes I can get frustrated and say, you were getting it yesterday, but what happened today? Or you didn't do your homework, that's why you didn't get it. And I make it so like the students, like, yes, students do have responsibility in what they should be doing, they should be meeting us halfway. But at the same time, like when I have a class of 30 and I'm one-minded, like I did a phenomenal teaching lesson, if they didn't do it, it's their fault, then that's where I make the error as an educator. And I think that having the belief that it's my responsibility, and then looking at the data and using the data, actually not just saying, well, I taught that lesson, okay, checked off, I'm on my sequence, I'm on the pacing, let's just move forward. They'll get it one day. It's kind of like an error on my part. And sometimes we just got to take our time and like let the students process it, calm down, and figure out and get other ways. And I think that like when you do teach these common classes, it's like, all right, what are you doing differently? And then I like to write. And one example is Ms. Mills does flip charts. I'm like, oh, and I'm using flip charts and I'm seeing things like you have to be able to trust others too, I guess. Am I on what I'm trying to say? Like you have to be able to trust your fellow peers on how they teach a lesson or whatever it may be, because they can show you a way better than what you're doing with your kids, and then you can see the instant growth with your students after like listening to others.
Yeah, I agree. For a teacher to have instantaneous response on the students and be able to analyze quickly. Definitely, the boards help, calculators do help. If you have technology that can do it, that can give teacher a quick answer. Now, when it becomes, the picture becomes a little bit blurred to me, is when the teachers would decide to reteach a lesson or particular concepts. Is it when half of the students will understand? Is it a third of the students will understand? Or what is the cutoff? And to be able to say, okay, this concept is understood by the majority. So how much the majority we're talking about? You know what I'm saying? Is it 2/3 of the students is the cutoff? Then what do we do with it? then maybe you're teaching outside of school. I mean outside of the classroom. Maybe like during tutoring time or something. You know? Because when you teach something that 2/3 of the students know, then you're gonna have 2/3 of the students that are gonna report. So what is the cutoff? What's the thing for me to do this?
And I also think another facet of that that I thought of with this when you're talking about reteaching is being in tune with what the students are learning and getting that immediate feedback is great, but also at the same time, how do you make sure that immediate feedback reflects the steady state of the student mind, in the sense that there are plenty of students out there who, when they learn a new problem, they learn the problem, they say, oh, okay, I get it, and then their mind shuts off and they say, now that I understand it, I don't have to practice it anymore. And so now you've moved on, and so how do you ensure that that process or whatever that you taught him has actually stuck? Because there's so many students out there that are like, oh, I got it now. Throw the whiteboard down, now I'm done, I don't have to do anymore. I've figured it out, I've mastered that concept, time to move on. And it's clearly not, because it's reflective on their test later when they do that problem. They don't know how to do it. So.
No, well, I had the same question. Wrote it down, like how to fight time crunch with deadlines and with testing and with all of our responsibilities. How do you incorporate reteaching? What do you do with those kids who don't need re-taught? And I think for me that this particular section just highlighted the importance of providing feedback immediately via whatever method. You're right, you cannot sit on this information for 2 or 3 weeks. It has to be communicated to the students immediately. But it's important in whatever format we choose to communicate that to them. It's important that we do it.
My turn?
Yeah.
Did I go first? Oh, it's my turn to read.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, give me just a second, please. I have to go back to this. We might have already beat it to the ground, but I think it's the crux. Yeah. So I just think, page 3 at the very bottom, Teacher C, we could make up some pretend rulers on OTAG where the first hash mark was at different distances in from the edge. We could cue the kids that they had to zero the object, say we will have different sized blocks for them to measure, and tell them that it won't be easy to do because these are trick rulers.
So yeah, I'll go ahead and go. So I agree with what you were trying to say when you thought that was the section we're going over. We definitely don't get to this part. We exchange ideas and then experiment with that idea, and then there's no real true feedback about whether or not this idea that we have formally decided on to implement, we haven't taken any data on it. Does it actually work? Yes, no, maybe. So yeah, I'm in agreement with that. We definitely do not get to that level.
I think our system is set up to just cover a breadth of material, but there's no depth. There's no time to provide the depth that is necessary for kids to make these types of connections. That's really my frustration as well. Something like this would be awesome, but that means spending a day teaching the lesson, spending a day assessing the lesson, spending a day reassessing the lesson, spending a day reassessing the reassessment of the lesson. And then...
And time's up. We gotta go.
Case in point. Case in point. Once we figure that out, I'm sorry, 1 minute.
Yeah, we can always trick him, of course. Make him think. I agree. I like those funny tricks, you know, to college students, you know what I mean? Put like roadblocks. Because we go through that every time we grade, right?
Right.
We go through the blocks, so we throw one every now and then, it'd be nice to see the reaction, you know? But I think the students don't do the connection with what they're learning and what they are learning for. You don't make the connections. We're telling them, okay, use the ruler and measure your line, and graph your line, and here's the ruler, and that's it. They're not gonna respect the scale. You have to tell them that you have to respect the scale. But why would you do that? If you know that they don't respect the scale, then maybe you teach a lesson just with the scale. You know what I mean? I want the graph to be this scale. I want this graph to be this scale now. So they change the scale. And you can show them the different scales, he can give you the same graph. Sometimes this graph is going to be different. How different? That's how you might think on the scale. So you just pinpoint the scale. So next time when you do a line, you have to respect the scale. When you're talking about the ruler, anytime you do the number line, it's a ruler actually. If you look at it, it is a ruler. When you cross two x-axis and y-axis, well, you have a zero somewhere. You get to be, right? That's the origin. And anytime I do something, I always give them a repair. What that means in physics. It's important because you need to connect this stuff. You know what I mean? Somebody is going to an elevator, and somebody is sitting and watching, right? And you give him a scale, and this guy is moving in the elevator, and the other one is outside and looking at this. Is he moving? Yes, he moving. It's like I ask him, are you moving or are you not moving? Everybody said, no, I'm not moving, I'm sitting. I said, no, you are moving because the earth is moving. So you give him that concept that whatever we do is related to the outside. That's why we do that. They have to do that connection, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for them. They will not. That's like something they try to give us to feel like, wait, but you're not going to use it. So most of the time they say, what are we going to use for? That's what I love about IB. Anything they learn, there is a real problem with it. How you do? Currency, you go into the bank. You have American money when change. So they picture themselves traveling. Oh, if I go to Mexico, here, I need to do that. No? So they connect themselves with the problem. And they learn it faster. I really find out that when they give them something that is related to something they might do in life, or maybe one of the cousins did it before, they get that. They ask questions. How do we exchange it? Do we multiply it with divide? I thought that's something you learned before. It's called proportion. You know? They're going to connect the proportion with the currency. But when you do that connection, now they appreciate the proportion. They forget about it.
Yeah, I know.
I agree with applying it to the real world, but I think that what really got my eye is that they're doing something where the kids are going to be able to use their hands. Like so often our kids are just sitting in a desk all day long. They're playing with a ruler. They're playing with different blocks. They're exploring and they're self-discovering these things that they can use with their hands. And I think that that's kind of critical regardless if our kids are in high school. Like they need to be doing something and let them discover on their own. Let them get up and go figure it out. Like play with something. Play with the ruler. Measure toe to toe around the building. You know what I mean?
They don't give us time for
you know, so like I think that's what's also missing, and it's like these teachers are able to differentiate and show, like they brought all these different ideas, but it's like, all right, and then a trick. It's like kind of like a competitive, like a discovery. Like more kids are more engaged when they're like a trick ruler. I'm gonna figure this out. Like they're more invested when they figure like this is something that the teacher's not telling them, and they're more likely to retain it when you're not telling them, and they figure it out on their own. Like you said, they appreciate it.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I walked in one day, let's say we were students, and I tell him pick a piece of paper. And now they're looking at me, yeah, they're gonna pick a piece of paper. Yes. And you're gonna measure it. So I gave him a ruler and you're gonna measure it. Calculate the area. You won't believe that you don't know how to calculate the area of paper.
I believe.
Then I told him, you know how thick this is? I'll give you the number. So I give him the number. And the guy is, oh my God, what is that? You know, in centimeters, scientific limitation. That's the thickness of the paper. Now I tell him, if you have a stack that is 10 centimeters high, how many papers you have? They were like surprised. I think we used to do numbers. They were excited. So what I was about to do on Wednesday is a little bit touching to this. You know what I mean? It's just few experience that we can do in the classroom, you know, for them to experiment things, maybe even if they learn whatever in previous classes, like an agriculture. It's just few experience. And it's beautiful to see, you know. Calculate the density, for example, if you can have just a scale and stuff like that, and few pieces of metals, you know, different metals, the levels, you know, measure that density. Or, for example, how to calculate pi. It's really interesting stuff. In January, I will show some experience. I mean, I know time is always a problem, you know, but if we can do it, I definitely agree. We have to do some experience in the classroom. We cannot just teach that, you know. We have to finish the curriculum. We have to. No, we need to stop sometimes. Measure this. You know what I mean? There's this thing. You know, calculate the area of this. You know, whatever it is. You know?
Use your hands.
Use your hands. Absolutely, I agree. 100%. Some people, they can look at stuff and understand it. Some people, they need to touch it.
Yes.
Need to do it.
Thompson, did you comment on mine?
I did. Did I? Yeah, I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, well, I just think the crux of this is how to reteach, you know? It's not just analyzing it, but it's a way to reteach. But it just makes me think, too, that I mean, I'm just really discouraged by my test scores and hesitate to do things like, you know, I don't know, so linear equations, give everybody a problem, let them graph it, you know, let them graph it, let them find the equation, let them make a table, and let them present it to the class, as opposed to everybody doing problems. Because what I'm doing isn't working. So it's like, regardless of the time, like you're saying, I gotta do something differently. And maybe it'll stick better.
That sounds like a good idea though. Stations, like something like that. Linear equations, like here's your station for graphing, here's the station for, you know, the table.
No, like put it all together, I'm saying, so they have the whole picture of it. So like just give them one problem, you know, if
like,
the fish population is declining, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and then so at the table they solve it. They do the table, they do the graph, they do the equation, and that way they see how all those things tie together, and then they present it to the class. Or you can do a jigsaw and share out with other groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, I'm last, I guess. But I want to go to the circle.
Oh, the
diagram.
circle of Griffin.
5. I want to end it with
Yeah, you have
that.
to add some things into that circle.
That's how we do it in a circle.
All right, you guys can go ahead.
Oh, you gotta read it.
I do?
Yes.
Okay, there's one box that says action show team members' beliefs and attitudes, effort-based ability, curiosity, individual teacher responsibility for student mastery, knowledge-based teaching, joint commitment to get all students to proficiency. Team time spent on sharing plans and teaching ideas for upcoming lessons, analysis of common interim assessments, era analysis and planning for reteaching together of items on interim assessments, and daily, weekly student work, and data analysis of percent proficient of students, revision of SMART goals, and then in their team talk members are non-defensive, have open, strong debate, and hold each other accountable for important norms.
Can I say something? Like for one, like I see SMART goals, and that's a trigger word for me. I hate that phrase. I hate that term. I hate what it stands for. I know it's an acronym that's meant for good, but I feel dumbed down when making SMART goals, again, because time should be spent on creating that creative lesson, not creating the perfect goal and phraseology, that, it's not going to mean that. It's just going to be a piece of paper that's going to get lost in translation. But I would much rather spend, those 2 hours trying to find these resources, to have these creative stations, or to design these creative experiments or labs for these kids. The data, we can analyze data. we know where our kids struggle. I think too much time is spent on what's not important, and that's really creating these meaningful lessons. For our kids.